2. Is this working? This looks good. Hello, everybody. Again, this is not a guarantee by any way, but stay tuned. As you know, I could potentially say something brilliant at any moment now. Let's see what we have here. I had set out a beautiful time to prepare for this, and then last minute meeting took all the time. So I just want to check on the promise for today's live. What do we have? How to speak like a natural storyteller. Even if you're shy, caved in, self-conscious, introverted, stuttering in your head, mentally constipated, you don't know what to say and you're freaking out. And so how to start your stories, how to end your stories, and the secret superpowers of stutterers. That's a beautiful one. So the first thing you want to do is to not go like this. Hello, everybody, and welcome. So anything that is, formal, or as long as if you're thinking about, or let me tell you about a story. A lot of people have heard the thing that says, tell him what you're going to tell him what you're going to tell him, and then tell him what you told him. Exactly not that. So for a lot of people who is it hard to do this, the easiest way I've found to explain it is you need to Scrabble your stories. So think about this. When you're playing Scrabble, so there's a word for example, like table. So the end of the E of table can start any word starting with E, and then, epic, and then the C of epic, you can start any other word. But instead of doing the Scrabble thing with words, you do the Scrabble thing with actual stories. So you're telling the story about, there you go. Here's how I came up with the Scrabble thing. Yesterday, I was with my mom on the mountain. See? I'm just going to press on pause. Did you hear me switching from telling you about the thing to the story? The only transition was yesterday. Another easy way for you to transition is you go, I was thinking about this on my way here. That's how you started your talk. So you don't start your talk by saying, okay, let me tell you a story. But no. You start one that I like a lot is you start your talk by saying, before we get started, just want to tell you, and then you go into the thing. So I just wrote a few one here. The shortest one is so. So I was thinking, and you just go into it. Now, for anyone who is familiar with improvisation, if you've played music before, if anyone tries to, think about like a blues song, you listen to a blues guitar solo. When we're playing the music, we're not thinking about any individual notes, much less when you're saying words, you're not thinking about any individual words. So we're thinking about lines and phrasing within a certain structure. So within the given structure of your talk and what you're trying to do, you're not thinking about individual words, you're thinking about story arcs. So the way you start your story is straight in. So we start with, when I first got started, blah, 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 or the last time I, fill in the blank, or this makes me think of the time when, boom. Now, the way you want your story to be, by the time your recipients, your audience, notice you're in a story, you want to be so far ahead of the curve, it's not even scary. Just right here, down the place where I live, there's a stop sign. You see, I'm in the story already. I didn't tell you. See, get this? It's just weaving in and weaving in and weaving out. And by the way, how do you end your stories? The same way you start them. You Scrabble the beep out of your stories. Most people nowadays are used to Netflix binge watching series. So when you're listening to a Netflix series, there's 6 stories, 7 stories going on at once. There you see the future, you see the past, you see 3 different characters, in different time frames, and you're keeping track of all this 7 stories at once. What's going to happen? And they always end up with a cliffhanger. Now you go and watch someone talk and you say, okay, hello, everybody. Let me tell you about the time when I was a little boy. And you see these rehearsed stories. The second you see this, you tune off already. So just down the hill here, there's a red light. And it's like a highway, but we have to drive slow on that particular part. So I'm at the red light. Now, every single time you have to turn left and I go to a place that I'm going. By the time the light turns green, I'm past the curve and I'm like 2 telephone poles past on the next way before the next guy just awakens from his, screensaver, the screensaver mode, and you shake the mouse like this, and he wakes up and he starts. By the time he wakes up, I'm 2 telephone poles away. So your stories is like that. You don't tell them you're going to tell them a story and then ask them if they're following you. By the time they realize it, you're 3 stories in. So just, I wrote down here a few down, which is going to throw them at you. So, that's it. So if you think about scrabbling, for those of you who just joined us, when we're talking about scrabbling your stories, it's that instead of associating words like the end of a word with the start of a new word, you do this with full stories. So for example, you're telling a story about the time when you were a kid and you were playing soccer with your friend, and it makes you think, that friend now, by the way, that friend now is selling insurance in Montana. And then you start talking about that friend in Montana because it relates to insurance selling because of the conversation you're having with that person at that particular time. So there's no, it reminds me of, boom, switching directly now. Well, but what if I forget? People think about, what if I forget my stories? Don't worry. If we're saying something worthy, something good, something that the person wants to know, all the time you're telling the other story, they're scratching and sniffing and waiting for the end of that story, the same thing as you feel at the end of a Netflix special. So you're watching, then to be continued, and you go, well, what about? And then if you're an audience, they raise their hand and say, well, what about the thing you were supposed to tell us? Then they go, the audience will remind you. Don't worry about forgetting your stories. Expert storytellers, expert communicators on stage will have 12, 13, 14, 17 layers of stacks going on at once, multiple stories. So that's why the audience is like this. So if you wonder, how do I keep the attention of the audience? Why when some people speak, the audience is speechless and they're hanging on every word? It's because inside their mind, they're keeping track of 17 stories. I'm wondering what's going to happen with this one. And what's the link with that? They're actively trying to make sense of what he's speaking. It's not so like a professor. Okay, here are, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being here. Here are the 3 steps of successful public speaking. Step number 1, tuned out already. So you got to keep the ball rolling and rolling and rolling. And yes, you will fumble. Yes, you might fall. But in falling, you find another idea and you keep on going and keep on going on. So that's the way you do it. Why? I said in the promotion of this, I want to talk about the secret superpower of stutterers. Now, I used to stutter like you see in the movies. I couldn't even speak before. See, now I teach, end stage fright master public speaking. I couldn't even speak. So here's the secret superpower. And this is a superpower you develop when you only stutter some of the time. Because fear of public humiliation is the strongest motivator in life that I've found. So for example, if you know that the letter B makes you stutter, there you are in a conversation and you're thinking of 5 different ways, like a sci-fi movie in your mind, 5 different tracks of saying what you want to say without the letter B. Or if T or P or S is making you stutter, you always have 5 different ways of saying things. So stutterers or ex-stutterers are extremely creative people. Now, I wouldn't suggest you hire a stutterer to, answer the phone for your company. That might be bad, because it takes a long time for them to get to the point. But good Lord, they're highly creative, especially people who stutter some of the time. So this skill of having 5 different ways of telling a story is what you can practice. Now, a great way to develop your IQ, and I think there's even a word it's called fluency, or like the way things flow, is a technique, free technique you can use by Win Wenger at the Genius Project. Is you just start by laying on the ground or closing your eyes, and when you close your eyes, there are, blobs of light and sounds and feelings that you feel, hear, and see. So you just describe that in real time without any modification at all. I see a dragon, I hear this, I tell myself this is stupid. Everything you see, hear, and feel, you describe as it is happening. You just say and describe. Now, for the purpose of you being at ease of getting it out of your mouth, you just need to be able to say it at least as loud as your physical ears can hear it, just so you have that feedback loop. And it's been proven that, I forget the exact stat, but it's like every hour, I believe, of this increases your IQ by 0.8 points. So that's like 25 hours of this increases for like 20 IQ points. And I'm not just making this up. You can Google it. Win Wenger. The technique is called image streaming. Yeah, I think I said Borrow Genius. It's image streaming by Win Wenger. So the way you start your stories is by getting straight into it and just transitioning with time. Oh, yeah. Before we go on, see, that was one there. Or remember when? Or there used to be a time when? Or one of what I like a lot is the date. You just say, so you can start a talk like this. You can start a chapter of a book like this. You can start if you're teaching, then you go to break and you come back from teach again and you say, 1975, 26th of March, I believe, around 6 o'clock. There I was, boom. See? Remove the whole, okay, hello kids. Let me start by, no, none of that. You just go into it so that for people who are just joining us, I was telling a story about when the light gets green and it's time to go with the car, some people are on screensaver mode. It's just and it's just frozen like this, and they go, the light is green, I guess I should go. Or some other people, it's green, like a boom. So that's what you want for how you start and end your stories. So let's see what we have here. In closing, because I got a meeting coming up soon. In closing, once I went to the Stutterers Association of the province. I live in Canada. We don't have states, we have provinces. Province of Quebec. Quebec's Association of Stutterers. I wanted to help them. I was at the gym and I was thinking to myself, how can I help? Where can I be of service? I used to be a stutterer. I teach public speaking. Makes sense. I'm just go there and help. So I had a show this particular day. So I had my guitar on me and I walk into this association, like they had like a yearly thing. So the girl at the counter greets me and I'm thinking to myself, wow, I hope she doesn't stutter too bad, because she looked like the way she was holding herself, she looked confident, she felt confident. I could tell just in her eyes she was in the state where she would stutter sometimes but not some others. For those of you who don't know what that is some people intimidate you, so you stutter. So that's why a lot of people go on stage and start stuttering, because the audience intimidates them. So, as a matter of fact, she just, does the onboarding, and she goes, I said, oh, poor little thing. It's horrible. For those of you who don't know, it's a horrible feeling. I don't wish that to no one. I swear to God, it's horrible. So anyway, I go in there, and I'm sitting with my guitar, a professional musician. I play multiple instruments. I got songs on the radio that I play all the instruments on, for God's sakes. I can play Latin beats on drum. Why am I saying that? Because the dude in front has his university degree, and his old thesis, university-backed thesis, is that people stutter because they got no rhythm. And there I am, a music professional, a music teacher, songs on the radio, multiple instruments, percussions, drums, bass, guitars, and vocals, and you're telling me that I was stuttering all this time because I got no rhythm? Something is wrong with you. But I didn't say that to him. I didn't want to offend him in front of anyone. So I'm just sitting there. I'm thinking, wow, these people, they don't know what they're talking about. So this guy comes off a stage, and I tell him, sorry, sir. Here's a situation. I got rhythm. And the problem is not rhythm, right? Nobody stutters in their head. No stutterers in their head. It's the interface with the reality that's like this. And there's nothing wrong with the voice box. Yeah. See? Sure, there's a guy that tried to, slit a throat here. So there's like a scar here from a knife thing. But that happened after the stuttering incident. So it's a self-conscious. It's caving in. You're so caved in, you can't even go out and speak. It's crazy. So there's nothing wrong with the voice box. So anyway, I started telling him that, and then he said, okay, I'll take that into consideration, but you probably didn't, because they had this whole scientific thing about milliseconds and testing rhythms. Anyway, it's not what it is. It's something else. And you need different techniques to help you get out of that stage fright and stuttering and being caved in and shy and self-conscious, which is what I do. So I go and there was an ORL doctor, ornitolaryngologist, like eye, ear, and throat doctor there. And I go and tell her, I just want to thank you from the bottom of my heart. When I was a kid, I was stuttering. It was crazy. I couldn't even speak. And then I went to see one of you guys, and she told me a story about a plane leaving. So you have to take your time before you start your words so that you don't stumble over yourself. And I said, you cannot believe and I came up with a formula. Every 10% you get better at communicating, you can double the quality of your life. You have no idea the good you're doing in the world. I thank, full of gratitude, like, oh my God, you're doing such a great job. And such a great job. And I tell her, I got some tricks. I want to help you out. I want to share these tricks. And when I said that, like, I have not extra sensory perception, but I'm good at reading muscle postures and stuff. To me, it looked kind of like this. But it was just like a slight, I don't want any of that. And she told me that if it's not officially governmentally approved, if governmentally is a word, they can't even touch it. So she doesn't want to even know or think about that there are techniques to help you go from shy, caved in, and self-conscious to naturally confident. She didn't even want to hear it. And I tell her, you have no idea. You're helping these kids. Every little inch they can get better at this, their quality of life doubles. And she said, no, we're not trying to heal people here. We're trying to make them at peace being the way they are. I mean, I get it. That being at peace is important, and it's a part of the healing process. But you need tricks, tools, strategies, and techniques to get you out of there. So being at peace is great. It's more like an acknowledgement of where you are, to use that as a trampoline of going where you want to go. Denial is bad. So acceptance, yes, but not acceptance and then stationary resignation. So there are tools and tricks for that. So anyway, that's what I want to share with you today. Ways of going straight into your stories, ways of connecting them together like you connect letters in Scrabble, but you use that with whole stories. And make sure that, I had a note here for the Russian sandwich. Let me just give it to you here. So, all this here falls into one of the steps of the thing here called the Russian sandwich. The Russian sandwich is basically a technique in the program that you go 3 levels deep of what you want to teach or what the people are experiencing as a problem in your market. And 3 levels deep of that, you find out why is the big lever that keeps this problem on the place. And then you take 2, not 1, but 2 stories you really, really know well that happened to you for real. That these 2 stories erode and corrode and destroy the pillars that maintain that problem in place. And by you telling that stories that you already know. Now, the better you are, the more you can stack. But 2 is the minimum. So you're just by telling 2 stories and going from one to the other without necessarily finishing your stories all the time. Like a Netflix special. You don't tell the grandma story till the end and then tell the kid story till the end. No, they go from the kid to the grandma to the past to the future, and that is how you keep your audience. Well, how do I remember all that? Because you lived it. So there's a lot of thinking in choosing the stories you're going to be telling. See, everything I'm doing here is just off the cuff for you. That's just teaching device. But what you want to be doing is you want to think deeply about the stories you're going to be telling that do the heavy lifting of changing the beliefs and doing the teaching for you. But the remembering of this is so easy because you want to tell the story about the playing soccer and your friend that sells insurance in Montana. See? So it says on your sheet, soccer and then Montana. That's it. That's how. So your bandwidth, your whole of your mental space and memory is free to think on your feet. So we say, well, are you so confident on stage and look so, you're looking at people, you're feeling you're having a great time? Because I don't have 27 tabs open with music playing in the background. I'm thinking of 2-3 words. But that word is connected to a story and another story, which I know that these 2 stories sandwich the biggest objection standing in the place of you doing what's best for you to level up your life. And that crumbling of these objections make it so that you allow yourself to take that next step and keep on rocking in the free world. So see you all next week. Thank you so much for tuning in and staying the whole time. That was pretty fun. I know you could be doing 10 million, 1,000 other things. And you're taking the time to stick here with me for 22 minutes. This is awesome. Again, I'm Sylvain Haché. You can call me Sly if you don't speak French. Send your questions. You can send them anonymously or not, either through the Facebook group, in LinkedIn, or on YouTube. I'm streaming multiple places at once. And I'm going live next week again, every week, answering your deepest and darkest questions that nobody can, will, or wants to answer about public speaking, marketing, confidence, and just, whatever, video on stage like that. So here we go. Thanks again for tuning in. Keep on rocking in the free world. See you next week. Bye-bye.